Appreciate it. Thank you for the people that came. Well, so today we're going to do something special, and I'm going to allow myself to be a bit more controversial than usual. And this will be sort of streamed afterwards, so that's the beauty of it. The special guest today was someone who didn't know that they were going to join before this morning, because I wanted to make something very impromptu on purpose. So my business partner, Taj, welcome to the stage. You will be talking with this about me. So maybe we can get a microphone for Taj as well. So Taj, the reason why you're here is because you have no particular love of music, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, I mean, I practically know nothing about music. I'll be very honest. I'm not neither formally educated, nor am I an artist, or nor I have worked in any label or anything. So
that might seem like, okay, that's a pretty random thing, but Taj has a very, very deep background in startups and tech. And we work together with Amplitude Ventures, which is a venture studio that help build startups. And we have a heavy focus on music tech as well. But on the parallel, even though I come from the music industry, I am definitely a skeptic of sorts. I have spent probably 14 years in music industry. I've done a lot of work there, both academically and practically. And today we're going to talk about the state of music tech financing. Mm-hmm. And I'll call it our neutral commentary on what that means. I think it might turn out to be fairly negative, but I think it's more important to have an honest conversation than someone that's not honest. So Taj, we're going to have a dynamic today where you sort of going to co-commentary with me and ask some questions, but we talk about this professionally a lot. Mm-hmm. But maybe to start with, could you tell about your very brief experience with music tech and music tech financing? Mm-hmm. Like, what's your overall sense of what's going on here?
Okay. So I think because I have no music background, so I have to just first give a context, who am I and where I'm coming from, because then it will be very easy for you to understand what perspective I'm talking about. I'm formally educated in journalism, mass communications, and films. I used to direct TV commercials, and then I moved to technology for a long time. I worked there, and we used to develop content for the global brands at a commercially very high scale. And then I had multiple startups of different types and kinds across the sector, from real estate to F&B to everything. And my businesses later on had nothing to do with my education, because I was only focused on one thing, then how to make more money. And then things happened, life happened, and I ended up in Norway. And I was new, and then there was one of the events by a music company going on, and I just went there to volunteer as a ticketing guy. And then the ticket manager introduces that you should meet somebody called Jakob, and he's interesting. I said, yeah, Jakob, listen to background. And then he said, okay, let's meet tomorrow for like a 15 minutes coffee. And then that coffee has not finished. It's been 3 years. So this is my background. Now coming specific to music tech financing, I have a very clear view that, for example, that any business that you try to do has to at least work at grade 8 maths. This one goes in, this one goes out, this is a profit, this is the loss. I mean, I'm a very firm believer on that. Obviously, there are hybrid models that you bring in capital, and then you will make loss for a long period of time. You will acquire market, and then you go permanent. That's a different framework. I'm not against it. This is also a good framework. But at the very base fundamental level, the grade 8 maths has to work. And what is unfortunate part, what I have seen in the cases that we come across, neither the grade 8 maths work, nor the Silicon Valley formula works. But you say, and if you try to statistically challenge, and if you ask questions, or you said, okay, plot the number. I mean, I believe so. I mean, I cannot put my money just because you believe so. Either put a number or put a strong thesis. And the thesis that you're putting is also sometimes just a repetitive, the same thesis. And it concludes, but the industry believes so. I'm not taking industry's money, it's my own money. So I'm going to do the basic numbers. So this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And we have a quite interesting dynamic, because I appreciate music, you don't appreciate music, but what we have in common is we believe that things must be viable. And to be totally honest, when I went into music tech in particular, 6 years ago, I've been an entrepreneur in music before, but music tech, I had a very different assumption about the health of the investment landscape. For context, I've also done a 2-year postgraduate master's the last 2 years, besides full-time work with Amplitude, basically doing music tech financing research. And I've met a lot of findings there that I think is really interesting. But I have claims I can substantiate with data, and then I have claims I can't substantiate. And I'll talk a lot more about what I can't substantiate today, because this is something, as of nature, is really difficult to substantiate. So I'm not going to claim that I'm going to be completely right in all my statements, but I think I am fairly right. First of all, I believe that investment in music tech from music tech investors is just a front. I don't believe that there is a scalable, repeatable investment thesis from angels or VCs in the market as of today in Europe and maybe also US. And we can talk about why I say this, but this is my claim. Maybe you can ask me some questions about that, because I do have a lot of reasoning behind it.
Okay, if you're saying that whole industry doesn't have money, that's a very challenging position to defend. Scalable, yes, I can agree for a point or point, because you cannot name I cannot at least name $10 billion startup from music. But in any other industry, I can name. So high level, if it's not $1 billion, then it's not a big money. So that I agree with you. But I do not agree with, I'm not saying I do not agree. I want to know more that why do you believe so?
Okay, so let's do the basics. So let's start with the music tech angels that people are raving about. These sort of investors that have exited a company and invest in music tech companies. I would say I know pretty much all of the people that are in that space. And these guys, as much as I respect them, invest maybe 4 to 5 companies. And that's it. Which means we're probably talking about 10, 15 people investing 45 companies in a good deal of years. Most of them jump on the same cases. So we basically, just quick math, the angel network in music tech in Europe most likely don't invest in more than 25 cases in total. There's thousands of music tech companies, and that also, the angel ticket sizes, so the investment sizes are very low. So what does that mean? So again, this is the base premise. I also have a lot of research on it, but it's still a lot of claims. My claim is there's very few angels that has a particular interest in music. The investments are fairly small, and the amount of tickets, the amount of investments are very limited, and they often co-invest, so the cases are very few. That's the base assumption I'm working from. I have several layers to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, from one perspective, it makes sense. Small ticket size, A, agree. B, very limited investments. That also pushes the case. But the bigger question is that does the angel or the industry does not even want to put the money and does not trust, because you talk to them in private, they have investment in avocado, they have investment in fishing. They very privately tell us. So, and then you have labeled as music and then allied industry investment, but you go and check the portfolio. So they're confident in avocado, they're confident in fishing, they're confident in cottage houses, but not on the own industry in which they are claiming to be the lead investor. I'm not against anybody, but just go and check this portfolio.
And that's the truth. So one of the things, again, I'm saying that's the truth. This is our claim, my claim. There's still companies that get investment, but usually the concept of validation capital, so angels who come with domain expertise, go to invest in companies, and other type investors outside the music industry do invest. The problem with that is if there's not a repeatable model for outside investors to bring to, they're so dependent on that validation capital They're so dependent on a credible investor coming and putting some money in, might not be a lot, and saying, I believe in this from an industry angle. That's not very repeatable, scalable, because there's so few of those, which means when you get to having investment at scale across many startups, across many industries, you basically need to get investment in spite of investors not being able to understand how to invest in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The boundary correlation, I can tell like that. I'm from India, and Bangalore is probably the top 10 in the global investment, like global startup rankings. And in fact, there are in the top 25, there will be at least 3 to 4 Indian cities. And we have not seen this trend in India. India is a home to, I think, so top 5 biggest startups in the world, heavily capitalized, and then you have Europe. So like that's where even I doubt a lot in that case, that why is it that investment is not flowing. And I've not seen honestly the big real VCs money getting poured in, because they have like, and my reason, and I think though that they would have done the maths, high level maths. Otherwise, why would not the American funds come here and put like deep money? And they're ready to put in a small tech finance, health tech. They're ready to do it, but now why not music? Can you answer that?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's data. I don't think there's repeatable data on what is successful, what can you expect from exits, what are the expected valuations, what type of problems do you see in acquisitions, like being acquired. All this data is non-existent. Like I've been working on creating some of the qualitative research on it. But through my academic studies, I have not been able to find any academic claims, statistical claims about what gets acquired. There's a few exceptions, like Warner Music, which I think are doing a really good job. My claim is that's very inadequate data. They also themselves state that this is US-based data, which means practically there is no EU data that's credible. So everyone needs to take a leap of faith, because there is nothing to substantiate, is this a good investment or not? Yeah. And if you're a professional investor, that's simply just not how you operate. You need to have something to base your thesis in. And if that bedrock does not exist, I perfectly understand why you wouldn't invest in music tech. Like we're in a position now where we've had a break from investing, we're investing again. We're super reluctant investing in music tech just because we have created our own thesis that we're trying to prove. But I'm not going to invest before I believe I have the data points to substantiate our thesis. We have owners, we have investors of our own that we need to answer to. Yeah. So are we going to go dive head first in an industry where the only thing I have is I believe that this is a good investment? Or can I say, according to the track record, according to the data, according to having clear understanding of exit opportunities, this is a statistically good investment?
Okay, makes sense. Then I have a question. So if data is the backbone of whole argument, then why do we don't have a data? Is it academic problem that you do not have enough academicians in this space studying it formally and claiming it up? Is it that because there's not enough money and then nobody is commissioning a study by Deloitte, KPMG, and the big ones, Goldman Sachs? Is it that problem, or is it that the data in itself is controlled by certain few players, top in the market, and then they will only give if it benefits them, and they will release their own annual report in their own world, and then there are 3 problems why I cannot say the data cannot happen. What do you think?
Oh, I think there's many reasons, and I'll cover a few of my theories around it. First of all, what I believe to be one of the biggest issues is the perception of investors in this space. I would say, been running the numbers, that the VC investors in this space in general rarely invest more than 500,000 to 700,000 per year per VC in music tech in Europe. Mm-hmm. Which means if you count all the VCs together, I'm seriously going to doubt that they're deploying more than 3 million a year in music tech.
In Europe?
in Europe, yes, of the recognized VCs together.
Mhm.
So, but there's an illusion of that not being so. But these are privatized companies, so they have no obligation of acknowledging this or even disclaiming this. So there is an illusion of investments happening in this space. I do not see any evidence to that superseding 3 million euros per year from what we would call well-known VCs in music tech in Europe. So that's one thing. It's a big claim. That's a big claim. I understand. The second thing is there's very little capacity from interest groups to do such work. Like I love the Music Tech Europe initiative, and this is something that's been going on for a few years. It takes a lot of time to get enough capital support, soft funding, European support to go and do fundamental research. But if you pair that with also the lack of maybe domain-specific pursuit in academics, you have this catch-22, because you might get money to do research, but if no one is deeply ingrained in the academic pursuit of that truth, it's going to be really difficult to also land what you're looking for. It requires a certain persona, being in the industry, having multifaceted motivation of getting these numbers. And that doesn't exist at scale. So very few people would have that cross-section of interest. There's multiple things, but maybe that's 2 points I can begin with. And they're complicated to get to align.
Okay, interesting. So I'm very interested in the academic aspect, because I said if you do it purely academically, then the results will completely be not aligned what industry is actually happening. And then you need the people who are both into industry and then now becoming academic. And in other industries, we have seen it often. Like you see people working in big tech, Google, Microsoft, and then they go and teach in Harvard and Oxford. That's there. That's cross interaction is there. In fact, even when Steve Jobs used to get stuck, he used to go back to these professors for this thing.
Yep.
Do we have similar stuff in music?
We rarely see it. Like I believe that there are very few professors in the space that has hands-on experience. Like the best person that I can point to is Daniel Norgård, which is I believe is basically probably the most brilliant mind in music, full stop, in my opinion. But his focus is very much focused on music tech in the educational space. Obviously, as a researcher, you need some sort of specific focus. So even the people who are financed to do music technology research have a particular intersection that doesn't necessarily fully align with what we're talking about, which is investor capital.
Yeah.
So I don't know. As far as I see it, and all the studies I've done, all the work that I've done, I have not seen activities in music tech financing in academia. I have not. And why are we talking so much about academia? Like we were doing the music tech accelerator, and I think at one point people got a bit tired that I was talking about academia. But if you want to be very basic about anything, like OpenAI, where does that come from?
Yeah.
Academia. Where does anything...
Where does the Google come from? This is a classroom project. So I mean, it is not that like we are the new one who has been to the college and now claiming to be didn't study music. But we are realizing the fundamental problem that you need a fundamental research in place, fundamental data points in the place, in which somebody has spent 3 years, 5 years to do that stuff, at least many of them. So it's not the academic push via these conferences. It's just the whole idea is, do we have that? If not, that is the time recognized or not. But coming back to your stuff, that investment in music tech space, which areas do you think are really promising within the music tech space?
I think no place is really promising.
Okay.
I believe where I can see repeatable, realistic wins is B2B niche, which basically means something that's having a company that serves other companies in a very particular pain point that is often infrastructure related or something that's very protectable. So that's what I see. That's sort of the general categorization that I see. I can deep dive a bit more. I have a good deal of data points to point to. I also have a good deal of other researchers that say the same. But we're still working on really proving that through data, which we're sort of working on now.
Yeah, I think that this is a common thesis in which at Amplitude also we believe that the industry is going to remain what it is, and we're not here to change it. Please perform the way you're doing. We're not here for revolution. Whatever is working within that part, if there is a very specific problem with a very precise use case, just go there, find that use case, and everybody's tired of that use case. That they have to do it. And then you just go invest it out there, small amount, let it grow, and let it naturally take its own form. That's it. And the solution, usually that I agree with Jacob, that B2B is the solution because both the parties are there willing to pay. Anything that goes to B2C in space, what do you have to say on that?
The problem with B2C right now is you're competing for attention on equal level with most other tech companies. And there's basically two assumptions I also work from, and that is exit amounts of music tech tend to be significantly lower to comparative industries. And also the financing of these companies are much lower, which means when it comes to customer acquisition through marketing, through user growth, B2C, the capital is not available to do a good job at scale. And if you overcapitalize your company, no one's going to earn from you selling your company at the end. So it's not a financially feasible model to compete for user attention in B2C. Generally speaking, I understand that user behavior is different. I understand all this kind of stuff, but the generalistic statements of that still counts. That the competition for attention in this day and age is expensive, and I don't see that music tech can compete at that level.
Okay, so then it's a consumer problem then. Customer doesn't want to pay.
I don't know. I just say it's a consumer conversion issue because you don't have enough capital to get to the scale you need in order to make a viable business.
Just let's get back to very basics.
Sure. Okay.
Very basics. Anything goes become big because at the end of the consumer is paying. You're drinking water. Water sells more because consumer is willing to pay for the water, and then you can pick up from there and keep on building, and then you can take a decision how big is the water industry in Europe.
Yep.
So my problem is everybody's consuming music.
Yeah. So we've had many talks about this, and you've made a statement. It's not necessarily unique, but I keep getting back to it. Is that music sells anything but music? And we had a talk. We were at Slosh Music, and sitting with one of my friends who's a absolutely fabulous producer, and you were basically sitting at the cafe and say, music sells anything but music. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, we're sitting here, right? We're drinking a coffee, we're eating a toast, enjoying each other company. That all of this costs money. Are you paying for the music up there? It's like, no, but the restaurant is paying for the music. Sure. But are you paying for the music?
Yeah.
And this is a symbolism for the end user rarely, if ever, pays for music. And that is the basic metrics of any B2C, is that there's a willingness and repeated purchase of the product. The value of music has been diluted so much for many different reasons, technology, movement policy, whatever, that I believe that it is deeply undervalued in the eyes of music. And I'm not talking about fairness, I'm just talking about facts. People consume music all the time, rarely pay for it, and what they pay for it is very low.
I mean, that brings to me another layman argument that I put, is that music is the only industry probably in the world where the product is free. I mean, you go and you make a car, everything in the car has gone. You set up trees, even the soil cost money. This is the only industry where product comes for free, especially after generative AI, even the more. So practically, when the base product is free, and you can also claim that social media is also free. That is a very equal argument. But point is, in social media, they ask you to download the app and stick to that app. You can't consume driving a car. You can't consume it driving in a cafe. They said, okay, wherever you are, but you have to open an app, play it. So the argument whole fails that in social media, you do the same stuff, but then your time is a product, and your attention is a product. it is only in the music where the product is free. If the product is free, then everybody is just now trying to make money in different form, right or wrong, good or bad, a commission on it. Okay, you but distribute it, I'll make money there. So base product remains free.
So yesterday, Hannah from Media Research had a really interesting slide, and she said that for professional musicians, 13% of their income is associated to streaming.
Yeah.
Like, that says a lot, right? That the main product they're creating, 13% is their income. That's a pretty insane figure. And when you say free, obviously you don't mean free, but practically free.
Yeah.
So going back to music tech financing is, there's just so many layers of nuance around it.
Mm-hmm.
Psychological association.
Yeah.
That is this worth my time for outside investors? And it just all comes back to that even the industry domain experts who are so-called music tech investors does not invest enough capital or enough tickets to say, really, in my book, that they're music tech investors.
Mm-hmm.
So why would outside investors at scale automatically feel that this is attractive? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a catch-22. Like, we can't get financing in music tech at scale because even the people who are investing in music tech don't have a lot of money and they don't invest a lot.
Okay, then let me ask you in that direct, if you're putting going it that way.
Yep.
How many big exits have happened the past 3 years you know of? And what was the valuation size?
Okay, so according to global figures that are current, it's probably around 150 acquisitions globally.
Okay.
It's really hard to actually trust that number. I believe there's more.
Okay.
So this might seem very contrary to my statement, but it actually isn't. If you look at the data that is out there, which I believe is not very correct, these have very high valuations, probably like 30, 40 million in average. Statements from VCs that I trust a lot, which come from music, does not invest in music, but like have raised hundreds of millions and exited for equally the same, claim that the 75% of the investment amount is under $15 million US.
Okay. So 75. Okay. So you're putting 75% of the exits are under 50 million.
Mm.
This number is comparably very poor to exits in other industries.
It's
So
incredibly poor.
That proves the point. Like, okay, if business is a matrix, then exit is a decision, and exit is the final point.
Because you need to remember that, you know, if investment happened to work in the way that you invest in one company and then that happens to exit, that could be a good thing. But you need to invest across multiple companies, across, you know, multiple amounts of money. And then what's the opportunity cost? So if investors like, okay, if I can only exit for this much, the risk is high, there's really no sort of capital from the industry, and my potential is only exiting for this amount, that makes no sense compared to other investments I can do. So that's the thing. So yeah, there might be, you know, officially the numbers is 150 acquisitions the last 3 years. I would probably argue it's closer to 300. And even though, well, yeah, that sounds like a lot, sure, but how many of those are acqui-hires? How many of those are actually exits of 3 to 4 million, which I know that a lot of them in, even the famous ones in Europe. So let's get it out there. 3 to 4 million euros. And yes, that sounds like great. Well, if they have raised 3 million capital and you sell it for 4 million, that's not very good. And then, you know, if founders have contributed as well, like with time and energy, have not taken out salaries, you might argue that the spending of the company is much more than what got sold for. That does not constitute a good acquisition. And actually, it's, it's actually, if you were to count those data points, it would be hurtful. Like, if anything, it proves the opposite, that you can exit here.
That is even more painful to hear. If I do not know, I don't have numbers, but if the general assumption is that somebody raised X amount of money and after slogging 4 years, 5 years, or whatever, they sold it just double what they raised, then and it forms a very poor case, because then somebody did not withdraw salary. Somebody was just simply living the dream for. At the end of the day, it was just, okay, it's crashing, so I just need to move out.
Yeah, and depending on the deal the investors have, they might have lost a lot of money, even though they sold. So if the deals haven't been very strict with who gets money first, then investors might have put in a couple of million, and they might own 30%, end up getting less. But obviously some contracts are protecting that, but then the founder doesn't get any money. So that's not attractive either.
So now music never got a money. Now the founders didn't got any money. So then who
Yep.
made the money? That's very the irony is.
So what am I trying? What am I actually trying to say? Like, I'm not just shit talking. I'm actually trying to figure out what is the point. The point is, I do not believe that there currently is many, if any, investors in this space that have a clear thesis, that understand where their value is, that have data points to support it, that can make successful investments, then do successful exits, and prove to the thesis being correct.
Okay.
So unless that whole value chain can happen, you cannot go to others and say music tech is a good investment as an industry.
Yeah, because first somebody has to prove insight from insight. Then others will pull in money and time, effort, and energy. But
Yeah, well, first you need to have data. Then you need to say, this is what we see in the data. Then you need to invest according to your belief, and then prove that belief. And only then do you have an attractive case.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
you know, preferably that should be repeated 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you just prove something once, you know, that could be an outlier. So, and I can claim this for sure, this does not happen. Because if that had happened, someone would have put out the numbers. Like, it is to no one's benefit, including the investors, not saying, we had a thesis, we were successful, here's all the numbers. This would mean that this investor would raise another fund.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those numbers?
Okay. That's even more difficult. Okay, so another thing I just want to ask the buzzword. Music industry is very complex. And if you're putting it that way, that's the first lesson or first thing you're told in the room. So if you're saying your industry is complex, how do you expect somebody from outside to get into your mess and understand this? Because the banking world is, for example, very simple. This goes in, this goes out. Healthcare world is very simple. Obviously, there's some complexity, but they don't claim that our industry is complex. Do you think it's a very good proposition to put forward that, and especially music tech financing, if you want to raise money?
I think the music industry is confusing, not necessarily complex. I think that many industry professionals are very lazy with their research, and they default to emotions and statements, and that is socially accepted. I believe the music industry is confusing. I don't believe the notion that the music industry is complex compared to other industries.
So at the end of the day, it's personal statement and emotional pitches that win, not the real numbers.
Yeah, again, if the industry who's supposed to do due diligence are happy with having most of their knowledge grounded in subjective emotional interpretations,
Okay. Okay. So what? Okay. Let's head towards the solution. Do you think there is a practically any solution, or at least okay? If you're not you, but do you think there are things that some other places somebody's doing that you think these are things to look forward to in music tech financing?
honestly speaking, I believe the only player right now, there's only 2 players right now that I believe are doing a positive impact on music tech financing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything. I definitely don't know the East, so Asia.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Europe very well, and I have a fairly good sense of US. There's only 2 entities that I believe is doing a really good work.
Mm-hmm.
One is Sound Invest in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
an audio VC company. Why they're doing it? Because audio in Denmark has been widely successful.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very clear thesis. They know what they invest in, and they're very outspoken.
Mm-hmm.
Only VC in Europe that I subscribe to when it comes to having a thesis they're trying to prove. Sorry to say, only. Second is Music Tech Europe, because they're the ones insisting on having research and data on topics that are now just subjective. Other than that, I see nothing.
Okay, so I'll talk about Music Tech Europe then.
Okay.
Because then most of the European countries have the tech which is there, are affiliated practically to that. So what specific steps do you think they are taking or they should take, or how other regional countries or regional associations can help them to get better?
I think it's a really difficult answer, because the easy answer would be that we would come together and create data
Mm-hmm.
on what's happening, who gets financing, who's exited. But it's much more complex than that. Like, I have friends in music tech that have exited companies
Mm-hmm.
that are not public, have made insane amounts of money,
Mm-hmm.
and they have so strong NDAs that they would go to prison if they said anything. Like, it's not that bad, but like, it's really bad. So, even a lot of the data points are just hidden by incredible NDAs, and a lot of the motivation for people to go out of their way to contribute to something that's very untangible about creating a European data set is also very hard motivation, especially if they want to break NDAs or they want to be anonymized data, or even knowing that these exist. Like, a couple of my friends have also sold companies, and there's been no PR announcement. There's been no like LinkedIn post. There's just like, oh, that happened. Like, how would you know at scale how to navigate that? How you gather data? So, I'm not trying to be skeptical to my own suggested solution. I'm just saying even that is very difficult. But I believe gathering data on a regional basis, on an international basis, about music tech financing, funding, acquisition, valuation, multiples, actual deal structures, acqui-hires versus capital acquisitions is key to having any informed data to do any thesis on.
Okay, so there's the last one, and then you can close it if I want, because I think so. It's too much of ranting happened today. Okay, what are the three music tech companies you think that really believe in them? That you do not know what will happen to the future, but you say yes, this is something that will, or at least areas where this will work.
I believe I have a few companies, and I have limited knowledge because I'm not an investor in those companies. I haven't done deep due diligence, but I've done my homework to the extent that I can.
Mm-hmm.
So one company that I really believe in is BeatDap out of the US, Morgan and Andrew. They're basically a fraud detection company in music rights. They've partnered with Tune Global, for example, which is the biggest independent white label solution for streaming services. And they have found, research by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that they claim that 10% of all streams in the world is fraudulent. Billions is fraudulent. And I believe they can be the first unicorn in the music industry. Tech unicorn in a while. So BeatDap. I deeply believe in Copyright Delta.
Dan is here also.
Dan Archer. I believe that is probably the most brilliant founder I know in music tech.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a hard time raising capital, have a hard time really getting momentum, but that's because they're fundamentally changing things. So if they succeed and they basically work with attribution of rights with AI, incredible team. I believe that. They're both heavy B2B niche, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And the third company, I'll stick to those two because I have a few more, but like, these guys I'm very, very optimistic about. Yeah.
Okay, so there is always a hope as a word on which we all play. So let's hope things get better. And as of now, it's not that bad. I don't think that's bad because change doesn't come in one day. It takes time somebody to come up and say, you know what, this is not working, or this needs to be improved. And I think so. If you have a platform like California where you sit down and we can freely say this, I think so that the very fact that somebody is providing a platform to say this is a recognition of the fact that something needs to be done, and it's a long journey.
Yeah,
and
I don't think they knew that I was going to say this though. But yes, I do. I do recognize it. Yeah, it's a surprise. I always default to the negative. I'm sorry, but I believe that if there's not someone outward spokenly claim that there's smoke and mirrors and complete lacking of a thesis, that's going to go really slow.
Yeah.
So I've made it my personal mission in all my arrogance to shout this from the rooftops and be wildly unpopular the next couple of years, and then might fall on my face and totally fail. But I believe people are not speaking about this, and I believe if no one is speaking about this, it will take 10, 15 years. If I speak about this loudly, I must say now I have one of the largest podcasts in the world. hopefully.
Yeah.
Some few people will join me in a while. I feel a bit alone right now. And then hopefully we'll go not 15 years. This is my hope. I was hopeful.
I have nothing to lose. I don't come from this industry. I really enjoy the people, and we try to find some money. If we make something really good, that's good. But we are really, really hard. So I'm not pessimist. I'll just put a grade 8 maths and what is successful in other industries and question you. The day I found a case that works for me, I'll invest. And that's how we operate. So thank you so much for being the lovely audience, and thank you so much. I'm so thankful to you the way you have put it, and thank you, California, for having us here. And
Thank you, yeah.
and trust me, it was surprise. I was walking and setting up chairs, and he said, "You are the surprise guest." So, but thank you so much. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Can I have this? Yeah, this microphone's on. Brilliant. Wow, wow. So many facts. I've been scribbling down all of these things and lots of claims there, right? Does anyone have any questions about any of those claims? I hope you were scribbling them down.
There's a
Yes.
claim here, yeah.
So you said that you believe more in the B2B startups in music. Do you consider small artists as more B2C or B2B2 in devenir? And a small artist is going to be a professional at one moment, or even medium or top artists. Are they consumers, or are they part of the business?
When you say, can you give me a specific example?
I mean, there's a lot of music amateurs that turn into a musician amateur.
Yeah.
With the COVID, everybody starts to make bread or to make guitar. And we believe with Tempo Studio, which I'm working for, that we have a lot of small amateurs of music that turn to musicians.
Yeah.
So for me, they are not yet professional, but it's for me B2B also.
Again,
So we have a lot of numbers, of figures of
yeah.
smaller artists.
So this is my opinion, but I don't believe artist is a viable customer when it comes to scale. And the reason is, again, this is my own personal opinion. When you want to build a business, you want to have customers that are willing to pay repeatedly. And maybe not so in your case, but in most cases, artists are not the most strong with capital and don't have a lot of wiggle room in their liquidity. And it's also a very limited amount of numbers that would define that segment. Usually if you do something B2C, so in this case I would call artists, especially if your artist is your customer, I would call that B2C still, even though they might have legal entities. They fall more in the B2C category. There's just not enough scale-paying willingness to create good models. There exist good companies with that model. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's an uphill battle, the way that I see it.
Like, so basically you're saying hobbyist, basically. People who do not have like formally studied or did this and now they're hobbyist. So, yeah, like leisure. So, I mean, the leisure is leisure. Unless you try a completely new.
I believe any startup needs to be really good at one thing. So if education is a part of your startup, besides selling a product, it also gets really complicated. Like, whenever a startup has 2 layers of activities, it just really becomes difficult. I believe the best startups, if they disrupt anything, I don't like that word, but if they, change things, they should change one thing and then leave everything else as is.
Yeah, exactly. So then you can go into music education. That is an industry, and say I am education within music. That's fantastic. And then you operate within that framework, and then you can make it a lot. But you say, no, I will educate you, then I will give you gig also, then you will become working artist also. Then there is no layer to end, because each one of them, it's not bad, but each one of them is a separate industry. It has its own frameworks, its own laws, and then practically when some one person tries to do is, he might succeed. But if you want to build a model, scale and volume and successful, raise capital, then let's ask, you're doing 5 different things, where should I put my money on?
Yep. And again, we speak from an investor angle more so than what we believe can do impact. Yeah.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Anyone else? No? Amazing. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Super insightful. Fascinating. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.